Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I'm going to get in my place of Zen, do a little bit of old world crafting, and you guys strap in, buckle up, sit down, and get ready for the ride. 'Cause we're going to talk about something that I always laugh about. Let me kind of break down the question the person asked first, and I'm going to link it here for you guys to see, but for those just listening, basically I had a subscriber ask me again in one of my videos about straps. Well, what about novice lifters? What about noobs? Can't they use straps on things like rows, lat pull downs, whatever, to get a better mind muscle connection with their lats, also known as the latissimus dorsi, your V-taper muscles? And I always laugh at the mind muscle connection thing because there's an element of truth to it and there's an element of nonsense to the idea. And how do I put it nicely? How do I put it bluntly? Basically, mind muscle connection is just a kind of a funny slang term for using good form. That's literally all it means on a physiological level. But what it is to a lot of people, because during a certain period of time, a lot of new age stuff kind of came into the fitness world. A lot of stuff like in the 80s, dudes were trying to talk about esoteric stuff and new agey things and everything else and bring it into fitness and into bodybuilding and training and everything else. And accordingly, they tried to sound esoteric. And so people came up with this term, mind-muscle connection. Back in the 80s, all these writers and stuff did who were doing all this, how do I put it? I'm going to use a Chris Jones term, hippie shit. Basically, the term mind-muscle connection is hippie shit. That's what it is. It's hippie stuff. And new age stuff. It's not actually real. You're not making like a mental connection with the muscle. And a lot of guys go, no, what I do, I try this and I've worked on just squeezing, contracting these muscles and feeling it. And I find that when I do that, I can feel the muscle contract a lot better and I got good gains. Yeah, you did. You absolutely did. But do you know why? It wasn't because you formed a mind-muscle connection. You already had that. The muscle won't contract without 100% mind-muscle connection already. You can't even move your arm without doing that. It's already there. That's how the peripheral nervous system works with your muscle tissue and your fibers. All your movement is completely mind-muscle connection. Nothing more, nothing less. What you actually did, the reason you felt it more is that when you started trying to feel the muscle a little better, it wasn't the squeezing and everything that helped you. It was the fact that you tried to feel the muscle, and so you adjusted your form and your technique until you felt the muscle because you were trying to feel it, so you adjusted what you were doing. When you did that, you started using good form for the first time. You start using good form on a muscle, it gets a little better load on it, a little better stimulation because you're moving the bar through the right plane of motion, you're moving it through the right range of motion and everything, and the weight is kind of on the muscles you want to work a little better because you're using good technique. You're not cheating. That's the big point. You're not cheating or just swinging the weight around anymore or throwing it around. Therefore, you're using good form. That's all the mind-muscle connection is. That's the only magic secret to it. It's just one technique people use to focus to get good form, clean form, pretty form, which works. I mean, good form can be used, not even mandatory. You don't even have to use good form to get massive. But it is a useful tool. It can be very, very helpful, particularly when you have a lagging muscle because your technique is really terrible. It can be a useful tool. I'm not going to lie. Absolutely. But that's all mind-muscle connection is teaching good form. Now, this might sound like, well, for the back, maybe that's what they need to do. Do that so that they can get good form. But you know what? What you're actually going to find is that with the lats and a lot of the back is the least sensitive to form of all the muscle groups. In fact, you don't really have to squeeze the back. Everyone talks, oh, you've got to squeeze and contract and everything. No, you don't. I've seen guys, plenty of guys and girls, both drug-free and enhanced, who use both extremes and still develop amazing backs. You know the only secret to building a big back? Big, heavy movements or enough volume. If you lift a heavy enough weight, even with somewhat sloppy form, consistently for anything, any exercise that works the lats, like even if it's just sloppy rows and some deadlifts and some sloppy chin-ups where you cheat a little bit, you're going to develop fantastic lats over time. If you also do enough volume, doing the squeezing, contracting stuff, you also build a big back over time. It's really all there is to it. There's no real secret to a big back. Either method works. I've seen both methods work successfully for quite a few individuals, again, men, women, natty, enhanced. As long as they do one of those two things, they generally end up with really good back development. It's just not that difficult. So what I would really say for these guys who want to develop a fantastic back, the reason these younger guys are struggling sometimes to build a big back is because they have other weak muscles that are a problem. Like their forearms are too weak, or their biceps are too weak, and therefore those muscles are limiting them initially with getting the back stimulation they want. So people are like, well, we could just strap up and do that. No, but then you end up with a muscle imbalance. Just like I was talking about before with straps, the reason they're struggling is because their grip is weak, their forearms are weak. Well, forearms actually respond to volume more than a lot of muscle groups do, just because of the sheer number of, they're stamina-based muscle, basically. Your forearms need stamina. They really thrive in a higher stamina environment, kind of like calves seem to, just due to the muscle fiber type domination in them. So by taking them out and trying to do extra work for them on the side, you're actually going to shortchange your forearms. If you took these same young kids and said, okay, if your grip is the weak point and your forearms are the weak point, do all these exercises. Do them the best you can. Maybe clean your technique up a little bit. Make them work on their technique. Have them clean their technique up so they're not just slinging the weight around. And if they do that, that will require them to grip less weight anyways. Because they're having to use slightly better form, they're not moving as much weight to try to work their back. So that should handle it in and of itself. And then in addition to that, if it's still a problem beyond that, have them do extra grip work. But you don't want to take the grip out of it, because now you're going to have to do 3 times as much extra grip work to get them caught up. Essentially, by doing that, you're only putting them a couple weeks ahead as far as their back development goes. And that's what you need to realize. It won't take long to get the grip caught up if you just focus on it a little bit. And instead, what you are doing, if you let them strap up, they're going to develop a terrible grip. They're going to have terrible forearms unless they come in and do an enormous amount of extra work. Now they're just in the gym longer. This could have been fixed within the first few weeks. If you just don't have them strap up, have them clean up their technique a little bit, and do some extra forearm and grip work to get them caught up, very, very quickly, within a few weeks, their grip and their forearms will no longer be the weak link. Problem goes away. And they have to spend less time in the gym now because they don't have to do a bunch of extra grip work on top of it. But, if you end up strapping them up, they're going to have a muscle imbalance because they're not going to want to spend an extra 20 or 30 minutes working on their grip every week. But that's what they're going to have to do because of the straps. See the problem? See why this becomes an issue. So you got to think about it from that perspective. The best way to deal with a muscle imbalance is not to remove the muscle imbalance from the equation. It's to fix the muscle imbalance with additional work. And I hate the other method. It's just another one of those tools to get people in the gym for extra hours that they don't need to be there. Well, just remove it from the equation and do a bunch of extra work for it. No, just add extra work for it and let it catch up on its own. You get in and out of the gym quicker, and you don't have to play around with as much fluff and waste time with nonsense. And then you end up stronger and more balanced in the long term. It's just the more simplistic, easier, most efficient approach. But everyone gets caught up in, well, if I do this and I can get this one muscle I want to grow 2 weeks faster. Do you think that 2 weeks matters in the grand scheme of things? Think about how much further you're going to get and how much better off you're going to be if you just do it the right way, the way I described already. In the long term, it's going to be better for you. All you're doing is trying to get 2 weeks ahead on your development on a muscle by trying to work around a weakness. It's not really worth it in my opinion, and that's just my opinion. You guys need to remember with that, I'm just giving my advice based upon my life experiences and observations over the decades and my opinion, but it's just my opinion. If you want to do it a different way, that's your business. But I think it's a mistake. And I'll leave it at that. But yeah, as far as the mind-muscle connection thing goes, though, seriously, guys need to remember that. Mind-muscle connection is just a kind of a silly hippie term that was come up with back in the 80s. Kind of falls in this area of guruism and everything else. And ultimately, all it really means is using good form. And that's the reason you end up feeling it more in the muscles you're trying to work most, because you're actually using good form. And, just like on a bicep curl, if you quit cheating and swinging the weight around and you actually focus on just, moving your elbow, you're going to feel it more in your bicep. It's not a mind-muscle connection because you slowed it down to squeeze it. You're feeling it more in the bicep because you're actually working the bicep more by just moving the elbow instead of letting your shoulder and your body English and everything else help you swing the weight up. It's nothing magical about it. There's nothing esoteric about it. And, like Chris Jones, again, I'm going to use this term again, like he always says, stay away from that hippie shit. And the term like that, it really is. It's just hippie shit. It's not a mind-muscle connection. It's not anything esoteric. It's just using good form. And you know what? But at the end of the day, a lot of your smaller muscle groups that do get neglected a bit on some of the big, heavy compounds, using good form when you're trying to isolate them is probably the best thing you can do for them. As much as I might tout and be like, guys, big, heavy compound movements are everything. They're like 90% of what you need to be doing. They're going to give you 95% of your results. There is something to be said for slowing things down, really focusing on good technique and form on isolation movements for those lagging muscles that are really a problem for you. Even I, as a big proponent of big, heavy barbell work, even I have to admit that at the end of the day, it's true. Sometimes if you want balance, and it doesn't even have to be for a balanced physique, sometimes it's just about balancing your weaknesses in a strength curve for an athlete. Sometimes you just have to dig in and use some little small isolation movements and really focus on clean technique and just work that one little muscle the best that you can. And that applies even to some athletes. There are many a powerlifter who's had to do that with their triceps, their hamstrings, rear delts, whatever. So there's something to be said for that. But remember, it's not about a mind-muscle connection. It's just about using good, clean, tight technique and form. That's all it is. All right, guys, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.